Hello teachers, today I'd like to introduce a resource to use in classes. It's titled Who We Are, Brave New Clan, directed by Leo Purcell. And I think that this would be a useful resource to use, particularly in visual arts classes. One of the reasons why I think this would be a useful resource is that it addresses both the cross-curriculum priorities and EDSTL Standard 2.4. The reason why I believe that this is a useful resource is because it looks at Indigenous perspectives in art, and through doing so looks at some Indigenous practitioners. The overview of the film is that it follows 6 Indigenous Australians and their experience with contemporary Indigenous culture. And in the context of art, I'll be looking at 2 of these individuals. One is Miranda Tapsell, an Indigenous actress, and the other is Kayla Tyson, an Indigenous rap artist. And it would be in focus of their artistic practice. Now, this isn't to say that you can't look at other individuals in this documentary. This is purely just in the case of visual arts. One of the other reasons why I believe this is a useful resource, other than looking at Indigenous perspectives in art, is that it also looks at identity and identity building, which is an important thing when it comes to artists and artistic practice. In conjunction with this, it also looks at, in terms of Indigenous perspective, is their relationships between culture, place, and people, which is, again, connected to Standards 2.4 and the cross-curriculum priorities. Now, for how it would be taught, since I'm looking at only talking about two of the people from this film, it would likely be in a 10-minute time slot, meaning the rest of the lesson would have to be used for an activity of sorts. Some of the ones which I've thought up, which would likely be useful, include further research into the artists and their practice, alternatively, class discussion about the artworks and their artist practice. This would likely be in reflection to their own artistic practice, that being the students. Would also have discussions of Indigenous perspectives in art and art making. This could be in connection to my previous topic. We could also look at the film and analyze it as an art project and a medium of expression. This could be done looking at either the film as a whole or individual sections of each artist. This is not to say that these are the only options. These are just some of the ones which I believe are more notable and some more effective resources. The reason why I believe these are useful is because these topics handle directly with the cross-curriculum priorities and Standard 2.4. This is because all these potential lessons that I've mentioned involve looking at Indigenous art and art-making practice, and this will cause students to think a bit more in depth about Indigenous perspective and how it relates to them in the broader community. Meanwhile, if we look at then the video as a medium to teach or use as a resource, it's also likely going to engage the students a bit more than, say, a handout or just a textbook. Oh, excuse me. Likewise, sorry, lost my train of thought. Likewise, the resource itself is only from Indigenous perspectives, which provides a different viewpoint from the traditional, or not traditional, but the dominant Western perspective or Western narrative. As for the critical discussion, or what we're actually trying to have the students do in class, it would likely be a discussion of many. One of them is a discussion about the relationships between people, place, and culture, in comparison to what students think or have experienced themselves based on, in contrast to what they've just viewed. This would be followed up by questions regarding how this is demonstrated through the artist practice and their own. Another discussion point would be talking about difference perspectives, in much the same way as comparing artistic practice and their own. And lastly, looking at identity and how that's built in practice and how it is represented in practice. Overall, I believe that we could use this film to have students explore Indigenous Australian perspectives about people, culture, and place, and I hope you will all consider this proposal and use this as a future resources in classes.